Hello there. Do you ever wonder why sometimes when we transition in our careers or we get offered a promotion, all this doubt and fear comes up from really deep inside of us? Well, in today's video, I'm going to cover the 3 universal fears that most of those worries tend to stem from and how you can think about them to avoid that stopping you moving forward in your career. So stick around. Hello and a very warm welcome back to The Bridge Coaching. If you're new here, my name is Amy Peterson and I've been working as a career transition coach since 2013. And The Bridge Coaching is all about helping you rewrite your career story and make sure that you move forward towards something that you really want. We all know that 2020 was quite a challenging year professionally for very many people around the world, and the resources I share here in the YouTube channel and on the website, which I will link for you below, is all about giving you confidence and tools to move forward in your career regardless where you are and what you are wanting to move towards. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you the 3 universal fears that seem to trigger a lot of the worries and the fears and the concerns that we have as we go through life in general, but I've seen it a lot in career transitions as well. And I often talk about this with my clients one-on-one, and I had a question recently where someone suggested if I could expand a little bit on it in a tool that may help more people. So here we go, recording this for you today. So the 3 universal fears, I did not invent them. I heard of them first from Tony Robbins, quite a famous American coach that you may or may not have heard of. And he, I believe, got his inspiration of how he positions these from Gregg Braden. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And essentially though, there are 3 different buckets or 3 different types of universal fears. And when I work with people in career transitions, I often see them hit one or more of these 3 universal fears. So let's have a quick look at the 3. So the first one's the fear of being found out. The fear of not belonging is the second one. And the fear of not being loved is the third one. So let's talk about each one and how they apply to careers. The fear of being found out is probably the most common one that I see, especially when people go for promotions or they perhaps move into a new role where they don't have a lot of self-confidence in their ability to do that role yet. For example, if you get promoted into a role or you go into a role where you lead other people and you have limited experience of that from before, a lot of people will come to me and describe that feeling of, what if they find out that I'm not the greatest leader they've ever had? What if they find out that I'm not very good at this? And this doesn't relate to what you said or didn't say in the interview. This relates to your ability, your relationship with yourself, in your ability to show up and do what's required now. Most people also are extremely self-critical. We're much harsher critics of ourselves than we ever are of other people. So the fear of being found out is a very primal fear really deep down of looking stupid, looking like we don't know what we're doing. And this is also why a lot of people lean on perfectionist tendencies. I've done a video on perfectionism, which I will link up here somewhere if you want to check that out as well. But perfectionist tendencies, over-preparing, all that sort of stuff is a compensation because we have this deep fear that we're going to get found out for not being able to do this job or be part of this organization as well as we want to. And you can probably guess by now that that deep fear, if this is starting to resonate with you, you probably have a flavor of this fear going on right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to stop being afraid or stop feeling that. But I think the first step to any change, like we all know, is awareness. So this is around your confidence, your self-confidence in your own ability to be just fine. And you're doing the best that you can. I trust that you're doing the very best that you can with what you have. The second big universal fear is the fear of not belonging. And this one is sometimes a little bit secondary for people. So they'll have that whole fear of being found out going on and looking like a fraud. But underneath, they're essentially afraid that they're not going to belong. So humans are essentially tribe animals. So we need a tribe. Even those very introverted people out there, we need to feel like we're part of something. Even if we're very capable to be, live, act, and be happy on our own, we need to be part of a tribe in some way or form. And when we feel like we're in a new job, this is very, very common when you're the first couple of weeks or months in a new role. You might have a bit of that fear of being found out going on as well, but you're also feeling like you haven't made those connections yet. People haven't asked you out for lunch yet. People are not including you yet. And all you want is to fit in. And the important thing here to remember as a slight side note is that belonging and fitting in are not the same thing at all. Belonging is a deep internal sense of being able to show up as who you are for all that you are without being judged. Whereas fitting in is about compromising bits of yourself so that you don't get questioned or so you don't look weird and that you're fitting in. And I think many of us in our teens especially, we felt that perhaps more strongly because teenagers go through that social experimentation phase when we really need to fit in with other people, and which is why bullying and things like that may happen during that time in people's lives can have a really big impact. But this is still a fear later on in our life, and because when people transition in their career, and I often coach people through that process, so I often see this when the rubber hits the road, when they're ready to make the change, they start to doubt themselves and they start to worry about how are people going to, perceive this? Am I going to belong in that new place? And it's a deep fear. And if things are coming up for you as I'm talking, again, don't put any judgment on it. Just notice what's happening for you. If the sense of belonging is triggering for you, creating healthy practices in belonging to yourself and having a higher self-esteem. So self-confidence and self-esteem are slightly different. You can Google that if you want, and I am going to do a video specifically on self-confidence and self-esteem very soon, so keep an eye out for that and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see that. So it is really, really important to build that relationship with yourself and build the belonging with people who love and accept you, which leads me to the third one. So the third universal fear is the fear of not being loved. And for many people, when they come to me, they might say something like, I really want to change my career, but my partner or my parents or my best friend or whoever will not understand that. And what we then find is that we're in that space where we feel like love we might not consciously know this, but essentially what we're making it mean is that if I make this change and remove the stability or the predictability, or I change something that will impact someone that I love, they may not love me back anymore. I may be rejected and unloved for my actions. And it's a really big thing that people say, because they come to me and they talk to me about dollars, and I got to earn an income of X amount, and that way I can look after my family or I can continue to contribute at home. And of course, financials are really important to take responsibility for your financial obligations. But this is a deeper fear. So underneath the argument of money is often the fear of not being loved. If I make an uncomfortable decision, will people not love me? I remember early on when I was living in Europe, where I'm originally from. I now live in Australia. If you followed the channel, you know a bit about my background. But I remember when I decided to take the leap and move overseas that very first time, I had a lot of this fear about not being loved coming up, because it was an uncomfortable decision for some of the people around me. Me moving away was impacting not only our tribe, so our belonging, but the love that we shared. And I'm really, really grateful that in my case, my family has been very, very accepting of my choices, but it was still a difficult universal fear that was triggering in me, nevertheless, when I was going through that. Again, if things start to come up for you as I'm talking about this, the fear of not being loved might be happening for you as well. So what then is the antidote to these three universal fears? Well, firstly, there is no antidote. It's normal to be afraid. It's normal to have concerns. It's normal for our ego to start throwing spanners in the mix when we change things up. So fear is normal. But firstly, being aware of which of these three universal fears probably come up more for you is really important. And the other side of it is to strengthen your self-confidence muscle. So your self-confidence is your belief in your ability to do the things you want to do. And the self-esteem side of things is almost as important, which is your love and your acceptance of yourself. So your sense of self, regardless of what you do, but just how much do you believe in yourself for who you are? How much do you support yourself for who you are? And how good a friend are you to yourself for just who you are? So that's essentially the summary of the 3 universal fears, and it's totally normal to be afraid. There's nothing wrong with being afraid, but being aware of it and being aware of how much weight we give it in our life, especially if you're changing things up in your life, is super important. If you want a little bit of help and guidance on the way, I do have a range of free resources that I will link in the description box below that you can access to help you through a methodical way of moving through the process, which will also help you manage those fears. So all the best till we meet again, and I hope to see you soon.